Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another year of the Sunday Podcast.
I'm Ollie Lum.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
Back in 2025 for our 5th season. You can expect more of this.
He's claiming that he was ill before the semi-final, whatever. But, you know, I just feel like at that point he was just looking for attention.
And some of this.
Elio normally say, no human is limited. So I can't limit myself, or I can't just say I can do.
As well as event coverage around all the major races on the UK circuit.
And if you're a fan of the pod, please give us a rating and review on your preferred podcast streaming service.
And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, give us a follow on Instagram at Sunday Podcast.
As always, thanks for listening. See you next time. And we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Hello and welcome back. This episode is brought to you by sportshoes.com as always. And we do also have to thank the guys over at Sports Shoes for helping us conduct our prediction contest. Thank you to all of you who took part in that as well. But shout out to Nick Lightfoot, who was the winner. So the winner of £250 worth of Sports Shoes vouchers. Hope you use it well. Hope you enjoy the trainers or wherever you buy. And hopefully we'll have another prediction contest soon. So thanks very much again, guys. But yeah. Harry Wakefield on the pod today. We actually recorded this a few weeks ago, didn't we, Matt? Pre-British champs. But we thought a good time to get him on now and really hear this guy's story, because the stuff he's doing in that Vet35 category is inspiring for everyone, I'm sure.
And not just the Vet35 category. I mean, this is a guy who was a British champs in the 5K. That was his first ever 5K on the track. He's done incredible things over 3,000 again this year, 747. Obviously breaking that British Vet35 record, but I think he's just he is, I don't look at him as a vet, I look at him as a top flight senior in the UK, and he has got an incredible story, starting running only a few years ago, a classic case of starting running in COVID, and then kind of from there just spiraling, and interestingly how, he went down the route of laying just a massive base, spent a lot of time just easy running for an extended period in the hills in Austria, and then, comes back and starts to transfer that over to the track. And I think as well, it's rare that you get someone pick up the sport and go into 800, 1500, run as fast as he has over 8:15 and 3K. Usually they'll be 5K plus and, enjoying the 10K, enjoying the marathons. We've seen that story quite a bit. However, he's different. He's unique in that aspect. And so I think his story is worth sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we really took from it, right? He talks a lot about just loving the feeling of running his spikes, and it kind of took us back to kind of getting into running in the first place, and it's something that people who get into running later in life tend not to do so much. So one of his messages as well was for people just to go out there, get yourself in a 1500, get yourself in a 3K, whatever it is, and just enjoy it. Don't just think that the 5K is the shortest distance you can run. But before we get into Harry's story, we better chat about Tooting BMC, because look, we asked, the people have been asking for setting up some races to help people qualify for these champs, and they're delivering.
Here we go. I mean, this is going to be pretty much the last time anyone's got a chance to qualify for the World Championships. And let's have a look. I've been sent some early names. However, I know that the start list is going to be absolutely stacked. So these are just, I guess, the headliners that Dan Shaw, the meet organizer, has sent onto me. So apologies if we miss people. Those start lists will be out on Monday or Tuesday, I'm sure, anyway, or even maybe by the time you're listening. But I mean, first things first, they're putting on a men's 3K steeple. And I think that was under request of Ben Buckingham, who just missed out in Belgium, one of the Aussies, 8:15.7. As we know, in the men's steeple, there is basically no ranking points. I think there's one spot left, and that goes to the African champion anyway. So if you haven't run below 8:15.0, you're not going to the World Championships in the men's steeple. And so these boys need a race, and Ben Buckingham's agent got in touch, and it got passed by track official, track judges, Dan Shaw. They're going to put it on. It's going to be the last race tonight. I think it's going to be absolutely epic. And who's in the field? Well, obviously Buckingham. Bernard Keita's coming over, Tokyo Olympian, third at the US Champs, behind Rooks and Mikowski, who I think, the way Mikowski and Rooks closed, they ran a 3:03 last 1200 at the US Champs. That is ridiculous. And, those guys are going to be fighting for a top. They're going to be fighting for the podium at the World Champs. So Keita, you certainly would think, he beat two guys who have run 8:12, 8:13 this year. You'd think Keita is in a position to hit that standard. I'm surprised he hasn't tried to get after more races. Maybe he can't get in them or what. But Jacob Butera is in there. Simon Sundstrom as well of Sweden. Phil Norman will do it now as well. My brother won't won't do it. I think he never planned to sort of race beyond Belgium. He didn't think he'd run as fast as he would or fast as he did, and I think he just acknowledges that Belgium was a crazy fast race, and he probably doesn't back himself to do it again.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? It's quite a mature response from an athlete, but it's not one we see a lot. I think people assume that I just need one more race and I will be quicker, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think when it does get to endurance races, 800s, 1500s, you can always churn out, and you can always, there's always a little bit of a chance you might pop a good one. But I think 3K steeple, 5K, obviously 10K and stuff, very hard to replicate. I mean, we've seen what Boston is like for people and how hard it is to replicate a Boston at any other time of the year. And I think Belgium is similar in that sense. So, I mean, I think Mark Pierce might do it as well, by the way. So another Brit as well. But my guess is, one, you kind of you worry who's going to pace that steeple. Can they get someone good enough to actually run 65 points? Because that's what you're looking for. I mean, 66.00 is obviously 8:15 zeros. So you're going to need at some point someone to be able to run some 65s early on in this race. And the rumors has it Keaton might bring over a pacer himself, but see if that plays out. But can someone get them to 2K? And then if there's not a pacer, these guys are going to have to do some of the work themselves as well. So are they capable of it? The chances are, if you didn't run that time in Belgium, I think it's going to be tough to run that time at Tooting. But the weather looks amazing. And there's so much on the line, and sometimes that's all you need, just that extra motivation of going, it's all or nothing today, it's do or die. I need to box it off. If I don't, I'm not going to the world. So I guess they have got that. There's no second chance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a classic NCAA last chance meet. Over in the 800, Patterson goes. Of course, Patterson, great run the other night, and he's kind of nailed his standard already. So. Yep. Good to see him. I guess just trying to prove form now to ensure that he gets that spot right.
For me, he's on the plane now. The minute he did that was him on the plane. What was it? 144.1, and he's only. I expect him to just go from strength to strength now. Like, I think he's going to be confident. We were having this. This is why we love Patterson, though. I've just got so much time for the guy because he still competed at British champs. He looked great in the heat, but then from the heat to the final, something happened, had a bad stomach, towed the line, came out the back door, but he's still there showing his face. Like, he never avoids a race, Patterson, and I think that's why I just got so much time for him. And then obviously we knew he was capable of better, goes and produces it. Chances are he's going to get a win in Tooting. I think that'll be his number one aim. Tina Crocken's in it. Obviously, we know Crocken and Bolt were around 145, and whether he'll have enough to go under that standard, we'll see.
Yeah, I think like you say though, that 800, that's probably the one where maybe you just something happens on the night. A bit of the pressure, a bit of magic, if you like, can sometimes get you over the line. So let's hope for those guys. But it'll be interesting selection stuff. Going on around those 800s. Women's 1500, Sarah Calvert coming back again. So glad to see she's doing that and chasing it again, and not just straight back into uni and not giving it another crack. So that'll be a good one. It's tough though, isn't it? It's another big chunk when you're already a low, like kind of 404 big chunk the other day.
Yeah, always a 4:15. Yeah, big chunk to come off. We'll see. She is good at winning races, closing hard, and the problem is I just don't quite really. If you're going to run that time, you're going to need some women who are sort of 3:59 4-minute runners, and so see what they can do. Look, Tooting is magic. You talk about it. I mean, last year it was just incredible. I can't even remember, what was it, 15, 20 plus men running under 3:40. Like it's a magic track, but yeah, Calvert has still got to run. The fact of the matter is she's got to run 3 seconds quicker than what she has already over 1500. She's got to cut it down a second a lap. So we'll watch from afar, mate, and we'll see it unfold. It'd be great if it does happen. It'd be one incredible season when you think of if she does pull that off. I mean, that is go from 4:11 to a British title. And 401 for 1500. It's incredible. That would be an incredible 12 months. But when we spoke to her, I think it would be amazing. It'd be the cherry on top. But I think she knows that over the next 3 years, going into LA and Europeans, and there's a world's in 2027, of course. I don't think she's stressing about it. She's thinking longer term. So who else we got, buddy? Men's 1500. Griggs, fresh off his 1305 in Order Gym. That was ridiculous. McClucky's going to be in there again off of his 334. Fogg, Tom Keane, Charig, Wakefield, all the best Brits. Do we see a 332, 333? Do we see has one of our Brits got the capability to break 333? I think Nick Griggs probably does. Has McClucky, has Fogg, has Keane, has Charig. Like, will these guys be able to dip under 333? Charig potentially a little tired out of Belgium last week. He's had a long season, but the opportunity is going to be there, and I think it is a lot more achievable to run these times over 1500 and 800 because one, you can always get a pacer to halfway. Not 100% if they'll have pace lights, but they might have pace lights down there as well. And, the chances are you're going to have 2 or 3 around you as well till deep in that race.
Yeah, I think that is the issue, though. It's you get a pacer, but it's if any of them really want to go for it on the third lap and I guess sacrifice themselves in some ways, whereas on a Diamond League circuit, that's where you got so many guys that are happy to do that, to run that sort of time, Whereas in this sort of meet, you're like, they go out with the intention, but who's going to really want to hit the front once that pacer drops out and just make that
I think Griggs.
hard?
I think Griggs is never scared of running hard and running from far out. He also has a great close on him, but I think Griggs will go into this off of that 1305 last week and he'll want to get after it. He'll want to post like a really good clock in over 1500. So, and his strength is clearly amazing. He is light years ahead of anyone else in the field over 5,000 meters. They've actually he's running 13.0. So he'll go in there, and I think Griggs will probably just hammer this one. But again, the only names I've got is Griggs, McClucky, Fogg, Keane, Charig, and Wakefield. They're the only names. So there might be others in there that could challenge. And then we've got the 2-3,000 races going to be paced around. I think the women's Ella Donohue's in there, looking to run around about low 8:30. Georgie Grech as well, off of her 15:03 in Order Gym last week. And in the men's 3,000, you got Simon Spataisis and 7:42 runner. Remember he did that Watford Grand Prix. Jack Kavanagh as well. So they're the kind of big names in the 3,000. Have we spoke about the women's 8? That's probably more interesting. Izzy Boffey.
No, not yet. So yeah, obviously Izzy Boffey going in that one, and then Olivia Baker as well. So two sub 2 women in there, and then they're hoping to get a few more. Is the intel we have. So trying to make that a quick one. And look, Boffey's someone that she could drop the time. Like she's been down there before, and so wouldn't be surprised if she pops a quick one. Coming into the season, kind of.
Mate, she's just peaking at the right time.
Peaking towards the end, yeah.
Yeah, Izzy Boffey is rallying, but again, just what Tooting's going to show is just how quick Belgium was. If everyone goes and backs it up, then it's like everyone's in great shape. But I think Belgium was a special night last week.
We'll see, won't we?
We'll see. Yeah, Boffey is right on the mark for this year. So I think as well, for a lot of these athletes, what is so good about these athletes still competing is obviously that European champs qualification window is open. So whatever Boffey can go run, whatever Calvert can go run, they can just put themselves in that European champs spot. Obviously, most of them will be capable of going to the Common Games as well, so they'll tick that sort of qualifying time and put themselves in front running to represent the Commies and the Europeans. So, and at the Europeans, I think Britain have announced they are going to take full teams. Obviously, I mean, it's at Birmingham, so we'd hope they would
do, but
yeah, Jesus Christ, is there any excuse? So yeah, huge opportunities
all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Commonwealth Games won't be taking full teams, but the Europeans will. So, and to be honest, as an athlete, you'd just much rather do Europeans. Like Sim Birmingham, some major champs, incredible competition as Europe just gets stronger and stronger in the distance races. Mate, do you want to know a fun fact? This isn't distance related, but I was doing some research for a commentary gig tonight. By the way, Henry Jonas is running and over 800, and the women's 100 meters, 29 US women have run under 11:07, which is the auto standard for the worlds. That is ridiculous. Considering only 48, I was like, Jesus, that is the event where the most people have run the auto standard. That makes sense.
Yeah, that is crazy. We were chatting about this the other day, though, right? I almost think it should be like a like a football, like Champions League style, where different nations get different allocation based off the depth they have. Obviously, we have it slightly in terms of, like, say this year, like obviously we can take 4 and a 1500, but I do think there should be a bit of a level of it. And if you did that, you could then like forget about standards. So say it's like, okay, we only get one in the men's steeple and one, but then whoever wins British champs can go regardless of the time. I think that would be pretty cool. And then men's 15, we could take 6, say, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does seem crazy that 29 US women have run under 11:07. Like, I mean, what have the Brits run? I mean, surely they're not like our best.
I have no idea, to be honest.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Amy Hunt is our third. Amy Hunt's our third ranked Brit, and she's run 11:02, and that's her lifetime best this year. So basically, there's probably about 20 women who are faster than our second, possibly our third 100-meter runner, which is just ridiculous. I mean, so in the US, pretty much starting in the heats, the whole field could be certainly the semi-finals. The whole field, all
bidding for a shot.
It's all under the World Championship standard, which is nuts. So yeah, I wonder if I mean, all of the standards, by the way, are going to come crashing down. I think in 2027, we're going to see it again. In the distance, at least, that's what we're in tune with. They're going to come crashing down. And I think it could be sub 13. It could be. I think it's going to be about 8:12, 8:13 for the steeple. Men's, women's steeple is going to come crashing down. 850 odd have hit the standard. That's going to be 144.0, possibly 143.9, something like that. Men's 1500 is weak 333.5. Everything is just it's going to be crazy. And so I wonder if they'll look at that as well and look at the weighting of some countries.
Yeah, I think the reason they're doing it is to try and push towards the rankings. But like we said last week, it just doesn't seem to.
No, the rankings is just so flawed, mate. It's so flawed. I mean, the whole place scoring is at the level of meeting and stuff. It's just so flawed because it's all to do with if you can get.
There's no way of truly ranking the level of a meet apart from
there's not
champs, because you could literally I don't know, Keely could decide she wants to do tooting, and then that meet should become a super hard meet.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, like think about if Keely and Georgia Bell are just like, right, we just want to have a race out, and they go to tooting, and it's like you get bumped down to 5th in tooting. It's just it's just the ranking system is just, I think that is impossible to carry out fairly. But it's also just irrelevant because the fastest people get in the fastest races, and they're the ones with the standard anyway. So what does it matter?
Yeah.
Anyway, mate. So that's tooting on the horizon, and that's pretty much it. We just wanted to give preview that it deserves, because it is the best, probably the fastest and the best BMC meeting of the year. It always is. It's the record breaker. It has private sponsors involved. It just attracts all our best athletes. It comes at a time of year where there is always eyeballs on it because there's so much at stake. This isn't just a season opener and people just getting a few races under their belt. Times are going to mean something, positions are going to mean something at tooting, and so I think that just adds to the cauldron.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, let's get into the main part of the episode. Harry Wakefield. We kind of introed it at the start. We'll let this guy do the talking. Great story, so have a listen, and we'll catch you guys very soon. Okay, first off, Harry, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on. Look, we were just kind of saying you only really got into the sport around 5 years ago now, or that's what we believe anyway. Mm-hmm. So do you mind just kind of taking it back there and telling us how it all started?
Yeah, I mean, initially I was a cyclist. I kind of got into that like my late 20s just to try and get fit and out there. And yeah, I kind of just naturally got into running when I was about 35 now. But not in any way competitive, just, your standard entry of like hitting a park run here or there and like corporate 5Ks and like the standard chartered and all that. But yeah, I only really started taking it a little bit more seriously about 3 or 4 years ago. I'm at Salford Harriers up north, and I think it was like three odd years ago I was introduced to my current coach, grime. It's connected to the club. You just put me on the track. I had some like speculative 3Ks, and from then on it's just been maxing that out and just going for it, really.
Mate, I mean, I think there's going to be a little bit more to unravel here. Interestingly, you say you took up cycling in your late 20s. What on earth were you doing in your late teens, early 20s? Like, were you into sport?
Nah, I was going out a lot. Running wasn't really on the agenda. I don't know if it's a typical experience, maybe not with your listeners, but when I was young, I just started playing computer games. I just like stayed indoors and kind of did my thing. And then, as you get into your teens, you start just getting interested in other things. And I played a little bit of sport during secondary school, like a bit of football, rugby and tennis. And it was all kind of mainly team sports. But I think it was just kind of lying dormant, really. And I'll be honest, I kind of regret not giving it a go or kind of getting involved in a running club, because there were maybe a few signs that I had maybe a little bit of a turn of speed. Say, like when I played rugby, I was put on the wing, quite a skinny guy, so I didn't really have the physicality to really get that involved in like the rough element of rugby. But I just didn't pick it up, and it took until the age of 32 for someone to have a look at how I ran a 400 in training. That guy being my coach Ian Grime, and just thought, well, you could do this. Just had a very different lifestyle to the one that I had now. Like going out, kind of maybe got a little bit boring now. Don't do so much of that.
Yeah, no, that's cool, mate. So how kind of good at cycling did you get? Was it you just going out for fun, a bit of fitness, or were you like doing races and stuff in that as well?
I guess you could probably more accurately call me like a hobbyist. I did a lot of hill climbs and like kind of long distance sporties, but I wouldn't say I even had like an equivalent to what I'm doing now. So for instance, I guess I'm just running the domestic scene, like BMCs now. But I wouldn't even say I got anywhere near the cycling equivalent of that. There's like a short hill climb season every year, like October, September time. So you just train similar to how you do in middle distance, because they're usually about anywhere between like 3-minute and 10-minute effort. So you are training that system. But I guess that was like the only real kind of competitive outlet with cycling. It's just that, at the time, unknowingly was probably preparing myself for a bit like a track season in the future, because as you said, like your heart doesn't really you can't really tell the difference between riding and running. You're working it in a similar way, so in a sense, I was kind of prepared for it. But I love cycling. It's still probably my favorite sport. I'm just more of a fan now. I've got like the tour on in the highlights on in the back now. But I just I kind of stepped away from that when I was 30, just so that I could kind of go all in on the running. But I found that whilst there are elements that are transferable, I think in order to kind of really kick on with the running, you've got to go all in, and you can supplement it with the bike a little bit. But I think it helps to just go all in on the running and let maybe cycling be the retirement plan and getting back on the bike then.
What made you leave cycling and go all in on the running then? Like, what was so appealing about running? You were like, I really want to commit to this.
So cycling is great, but there's quite a lot of faff involved. Like
so much faff.
You've got your bike, you've got all your gear, and like particularly if you're a cyclist in England, like everything just gets wrecked, and like there's a lot of maintenance stuff, and like I'm not like the laziest guy out there, but I think as soon as I found out how easy and accessible running was, and that you could still kind of hurt yourself just as much as you can on the bike, I just thought, wow, like this is just so much simpler. And like, how it is when you kind of start running, you get the bug, and I just kept wanting to do it. So whenever I get injured, which is at my age relatively regularly, but usually throughout winter, I'll hop back on the bike, and it's still this amazing tool that gets you really fit, aerobically fit, if you kind of know what you're doing with it. And it's a slight difference in that obviously you have like cross training, but the way that I kind of ride the bike is I just train as I did when I was doing hill climb. So you're kind of continuing that kind of effort and the stimulus that you would get with running. But I guess it was mainly just out of laziness and convenience that I kind of really pivoted into running. But then the feeling of like seeing progress, it's kind of intoxicating, isn't it? You just want to see what you've got. And that's kind of been me for like the last 4 or 5 years now.
So was your mindset when you decided to invest more time and commit fully to running the same 4 years ago or so as it is now, or has that also progressed as your commitment looked a lot different over the last few years?
Yeah, so I think when I first started out, I was just doing your typical thing, like I said, like with park runs and road 5Ks and things. And I'll be honest, I was kind of losing a little bit of interest. It kind of became a little bit monotonous. Like, you know how it is, like when you're just chasing like certain like milestones or trying to get under 15 for the first time, for instance. And I wasn't coached then, so I was kind of doing it all on my own and probably not really getting the training right. And actually, I took a little bit of time away from competitive running and work. I went, like, I lived in Austria for a bit, for like 8 months, 9 months, and I just like ran the hills, no real structured training. But where I was based in Salzburg, it has like this crescent formation of hills and mountains, and literally like 3 or 4 times a week, I'll just go on 3-hour kind of easy-ish runs and just came back and then suddenly realized, oh, actually, I'm quite strong now. I guess it was my lifestyle then was conducive to that kind of running because I didn't really have much else that I was doing and I was just really just taking time. But it was when I returned from Austria, I think it was in 2023, and got back training with Salford that I realized that I was just different now. And that's something, obviously, those adaptations had occurred and something had changed. And suddenly running fast was, weirdly, having not run fast for 8 months, running fast was then possible and nowhere near as painful or as uncomfortable as it used to be. And then from there, that's when I got introduced to track, and that's just changed everything. Like my outlook on the sport, my like investment levels, kind of all in now on track.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wanted to ask you, because like most people who come to the sport a bit later on, like we see them kind of, they gravitate towards a park run, they go and do half marathons, and then they're like, I want to do all the majors or whatever it is, I want to get my marathon time down. What was it about the track that was so kind of appealing to you?
Just like going fast, like I like the pain in a way, or just managing the pain. Not a sicko in that sense, but like I just like that rush that you get from like kind of the rawness of it, the kind of simplicity of it, and the training, I guess, more kind of closely resembles what I was doing when I was riding my bike. Like when I was riding my bike, I was just getting to the bottom of the hill and just sending it every time. So it was kind of almost like a fartlecky style thing of riding steady tempos, get to the hill, send it, recover, get to the next one, send it, recover, and a little bit more structured training and doing like your 1-minute efforts, 2-minute efforts, and track's exactly the same. So in a way, it was almost like a throwback to that time when I first got on the bike, and it just felt familiar. But thing is, I know it sounds daft, but I actually just like running in spikes. That's like my main like I do not like running in trainers, or really don't like running in super shoes. So the moment I put spikes on, I feel great. It's just it feels a little bit more natural, I guess, just the track. And also I think there's a better competitive scene domestically on the track. You've got the BMC, you've got other like great like annual meets. There's always something to kind of like target and look forward to. Whereas on the road scene, you've got like obviously 5Ks and things, but I just find it a little bit harder to look forward to them for whatever reason.
Mate, it's refreshing. It's like being a kid again. It is fun to get spikes on, rips and reps on the track. And you're right. I think the track is just way more competitive in a sense that you're always going to be near the front of a race, or there's a race you can enter no matter what your level is where you can actually compete for a win. Whereas on the road, to get a win is very difficult.
It definitely is. I mean, I did Armagh this year, and that was fun in the sense that it kind of more closely resembled a track race, not just because of like the circuit, but the feel and the preparation for it. But I think those races are quite rare, and they're famous, I say, for a reason, in that they are always competitive. But I just find it hard to get up for the other side. I still race on the roads a lot, but it's mainly for my club, like relays and things, and that obviously has a nice kind of like unique element to it, a team component to it. But save for that, like I would always prefer track.
Mate, that getting your spikes on, ripping a few reps, does it help that you are involved in a club where you have there's a lot of youth talent coming through? Obviously, Ian is coaching and Evan and various other young athletes coming through that group. Are you
massively?
Is there any other there's a few seniors as well alongside you, isn't there? Or
there are a few, but we're not even a track affiliated club. We don't even have our own track. We kind of borrow it off our neighbours, which is kind of odd in the sense that we have this amazing kind of conveyor belt of junior talent coming through, as you said, like with Evan, Grime, Ian Sun, and many others. I couldn't even name check all of them. There are that many. So I guess the kind of identity of the club is changing in a sense, in that we're kind of regarded as traditionally like a road and cross club, in that we've kind of always mixed it there. But that talent base is kind of changing a little bit, and it is slightly unique in the sense that, yeah, the vast majority of my training partners are about 15, 20 years younger than me. And there was a period where, yeah, like 2 years ago, it was just me and Evan, like hitting 400s. That's a 14-year-old guy.
Yeah.
He had a 33-year-old. It looked odd, like, just to
Was
have
it weird
that
for you?
age difference. Nah, because he's like wise beyond his years. And he's obviously just a bit of a phenom, and there are many others as well that are just, they don't run like 14-year-olds. They're breaking like world records, British records, and like winning all the relays, like getting England vests, GB vests, like. But yeah, from a pure numbers, so it is mad. And I think from the senior standpoint, we're getting a lot more enthusiasm for track, because I think you can see that it helps to develop those gears, and you don't have to go all in, but if you do dip your toe into like 1500 meter running and training and 3Ks, for instance, the 5Ks are going to seem a little bit easier, I think, because it's a completely different quality of pain, isn't it? If you think 5K's bad, like try like really messing up a 3K. You kind of broaden that pain spectrum in a sense. So yeah, it's growing from the senior standpoint. The junior division, I think they're going to be some big names, I think, in the next 3 or 4 years, really making a breakthrough.
Absolutely. What was it about kind of joining like a traditional athletics club, if you like, that kind of caught your eye? Because I think most people opt for like run clubs these days, or those real kind of road focused groups, and that wouldn't have even opened your eyes to the track, you know? Yeah,
I think the whole advent of like those sexy run clubs came a little bit after my entry, like into the sport. But obviously they're really popular now, and I think it is mainly the competitive aspect of it. It's not necessarily an entirely positive thing, but I am extremely competitive, and I think you're going to get that component from club running, where you have these kind of fixture events of like the national cross and the road relays and things. And I was brief. My first club actually wasn't even Salford; it was Highgate, because I was practicing law in London at the time when I first made that kind of pivot into running. I was there for about a year, and obviously that's a club that's well known for its performance on the roads and cross, like really rich history. And I left because I was relocating up north. I think just getting amongst it, and the team aspect of it too. Come from playing like basketball, cricket, rugby, and all that stuff at school. And whilst as I said, that there was a long period where I didn't do that, kind of missed it. So that first kind of like re-entry into team sport, that was a big plus.
Yeah, absolute. It's good to hear. We could have lost him to the run clubs. He could have been sunglasses and super shoes. He doesn't like either.
I might give one a go. I don't know, but I see, because I live like in central Manchester now, and you have like these hordes of like run clubs and like hydration vests and stuff, and they all look like they're having a lot more fun than I am, like on a tempo or stuff. So it does look quite appealing. But I think on the competitive front, maybe you wouldn't scratch that itch with it.
Yeah, that's it. And like we joke about it, but it's more. I do think there must be other people like you that are clearly like talented, that we have like lost, if you like, to run clubs, who we've never seen what they might be able to do over 800, 1500 meters, because they just don't get exposed to it unless they ran a sport as a teenager.
But even in traditional club setups, I think there's a lot of guys who just consider themselves to be 5K, 10K guys, and think they don't have it. But I don't know if I'm in a unique spot or not, but I have a feeling, and this is what I say to the guys, because I managed the men's team at Salford. I was like, just give it a go, give it a shot, and like it's not going to last that long. If it is that painful, it's over before you know it. And like you can almost see it in the build of some guys. I was like, you're doing 5K, 10Ks, but you're quite clearly an 800 meter runner, and I can see that in the way that you run 200s, the 200 bit of a kind of a mixed pace session, and it's just kind of coaxing, maybe like just encouraging them and saying like, just give it a shot. Like, what is the worst that could happen?
There's so many people out there like that. I've got so many mates who used to be, up and down the football pitch like you wouldn't believe. And frustratingly, the only races for them to do are like road 5Ks. They're not going to dive into a Watford Open.
No, it's true.
Or a Trafford Open. So, they end up leaning in towards these events. And I think there should be more road miles in the UK, because I think that's going to encourage a lot of people who are doing 5Ks and 10Ks, perhaps not enjoying them all that much, but their talents lie in the middle distance races. If there are more road
100%.
miles, I think that would encourage a lot more to maybe look at stepping into the track. But let's talk about this setup at Salford. You've touched on it briefly. You're working under Ian Grime. That group is quite small. I mean, how are you guys training? Because you're doing incredible things. And also I want to talk about just the progression of your training over the last 3 years, because I think your 3K time sums it up perfectly, from like 8:07, 8:10, and chopped it down 7:55 last year, and now you're running 7:47, and who knows where next. So has training progressed? What was it like when you first started to get on the track?
I think it's that word you hear in running all the time. It's kind of nauseating, that consistency thing. Like, you hear it all the time, but it is true. Not an awful lot has changed. So like, Ian comes from like the Loughborough school. His coach was George Gandy. And so a lot of it is kind of passed down from his own training. And one of the great things about Ian is that he would set you a session and you do it. And then invariably, like 3 or 4 hours later, you'll get a screenshot of his little notebook when he did it, back when he was running, because he was a very good middle distance runner himself, and ran a great 5K too. So a lot of it's kind of borrowed from that school, and it's just bread and butter stuff. It's not like anything fancy. It's not double threshold. It's like a 3-session week, Tuesday night, and obviously all dependent on the time of year, but Tuesday nights, just hitting the track, more kind of VO2 area, longer reps, but stuff literally like 16x4 off a minute, or like 8x8 off a minute, like just nothing mad. And then on Thursdays, like your tempo. Saturdays again, just a hard, depending on time of year, a track session, or if you're like preparing for relays, a road session. So it's nothing mad. It's just consistent, and just keep doing it, and keep hitting it at like 90% effort level. And particularly at my age, I think I've been quite lucky in that I've only had like one major injury, and it wasn't even a physical injury. I had like some heart issue like 18 months ago. But other than that, touch wood, I've kind of kept injury free. And so it's just allowed me to like hit the sessions. And I'd say there's like about 6 or 7 sessions that we rotate from. So I don't know if that's a lot or not. I don't actually know what other groups are doing, really. I don't know if that kind of circulation is
probably a good thing. Get your head down and focus on you. Yeah.
That's kind of the main thing as well, is that I don't know. I didn't know anything about middle distance or track racing when I kind of started 3 years ago, and consequently I just put my trust in Ian. So he's the one who's kind of curated it. He's the one who's had numbers in his mind. I've never thought, oh, I could do this or I could do that, or that session indicates that I can run that time, because I genuinely still don't have a clue. I don't know what I can do next. He's always been the one who's kind of gone like, well, you hit him at that pace, or like, just go hard, just go what you feels right, and it will all kind of come out in the wash, kind of thing. And I don't really look at what other people are doing, because I guess my situation is slightly different in that, like, I don't have years of running in me, but maybe that's a positive. Maybe quite a bit older than the guys that I line up with, but at the same time, I'm quite young in running years. Even though, my 20s, I don't think what I was doing was conducive to like fast running either. So I think it all kind of like, it all blends into one. But yeah, the training I think has evolved slightly as I've gone a little bit quicker. And like, it's just tweaking the sessions a little bit, playing with recovery. It's the same sessions I've always done, but playing with recovery, maybe like upping the volume. And I was quite lucky earlier in the year when Jake Whiteman was kind of coming back from injury and moved to Manchester. I did a couple of indoor sessions with him, and just from those indoor sessions, we picked bits of his training, what he was kind of doing, like maybe doing like a threshold at the end of some harder stuff. Nothing mad, like no kind of overwhelming changes, but just adding like these little pieces here and there, which I think I kind of responded quite well to in building those different blocks, whether it be the threshold or the VO2 or the pure anaerobic stuff. So yeah, it evolves, but it is roughly the same. Yeah, you're right. With like the 3K and the stuff that you can see, of course, from 8 to 5K, it's almost dropped like in equal measure across all of the distances, just gradually. No like major jumps. I don't know what a major jump is, but I think that's probably a symptom or kind of a sign that the training's just working in a way.
Which then I guess the question is, you're at a level now where are the discussions being had, you're thinking about potentially specializing in an event a little bit more? Because you're right, like all your PBs, they kind of match up, right? 147, 338, 740, and whatever you're going to run for the 5. You're doing it at British Champs, right? So that'll be cool. But yeah, are you thinking about potentially now starting to just prioritize one event?
Yeah, I guess it is a good question, and it's something that we think about every now and then. What we've kind of valued is just like the versatility and the range, but I think you're right. Like in order to kind of run really fast times, you probably have to invest a little bit more in, like, say, the 15. And I like the 3 because it just feels slightly more comfortable, and again, maybe it kind of lends itself more to like the fitness that I built cycling, and the kind of climbs were usually in the 8-minute range that I was doing. But the 3 is not a popular distance, is it? It's in its own little space, and you can specialize in it. But yeah, maybe at, like, say, indoor champs, that could be something to really target. I think, yeah, once we kind of get the 5 done this year, then we'll probably have a little look at. I'm going to run Tooting as well at the end of the year, so that's maybe a chance to kind of go a little bit harder on the 15, and then at the end, yeah, we'll reassess and see what we can do. But it's kind of trying to figure out where the limit or where the ceiling is. This could be the pinnacle for me. I have no idea. Just got to keep going until the wheels fall off. But I do like it. Keeps it interesting to work all of the distances and using, say, like an 800 to enhance your 15, and your 15 to enhance your 3 and your 5. And yeah, I think there might come a time where it's quite clear that I've plateaued across many of the distances, and maybe just as like a fun little project, just go all in on one in particular.
Was there any like added motivation this year with kind of going into that V35 category and I guess having records to chase, or was it something you didn't really think about?
It was like, if you talk about like computer games, it was almost like a little bit of a side quest in a sense. Okay. And like, it wasn't like essential that you take them, but getting those records would have been a byproduct of running fast. Like, that has always been the aim, is just to run fast across all of the distances. And it should just be incidental that I break those records. And it's a niche age category. Let's be real here. Like, V35
becoming more popular, though. I think over the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot more people running into their mid-30s, late 30s.
Yeah, with like the spikes and stuff, like the longevity. Yeah. And there's already guys you can see who are like in their 30s who I raced with. I'm thinking, like, you're probably going to take that record or that 8 or the 15, whereas they've been standing for like a really long time. Like a guy called Anthony Whiteman had quite a few of them, like the pure middle distance stuff, and then obviously Dave Moorcroft with the 3. And I don't know if the 5 is even obtainable, because that's Tomo, and that's like 13:25 or something. So I clearly know, I've got the numbers in my head, so I'm clearly aware of them. But weirdly, like the V40 middle distance times are actually quicker than the V35 ones. That was Anthony Whiteman just cracked on and ran a sub 4-minute mile at the age of 42 or something, like just mad stuff. Maybe that's kind of more appetizing of a carrot than what I've got now. And I guess, lucky or like worked hard for it, but I've got pretty much all of them for V35. But maybe it's trying to, in a way, put them out of reach, as I say, for the inevitable challenges that are going to come in recent years. The main thing is just running fast across all of the distances. I did have a little wager with my training partner, Evan, because he breaks his British records, age group records all the time, and we only had a tenner on it. But it was who could have the most British records, age group records by the end of the season. Like, completely wiped the floor with him. It's great. Okay. He's running really well as well. And he's broken like a fair few, but I guess maybe mine were less, I don't know, maybe less challenging. And yeah, he's in the dust on that one. It's great.
Poor Evan, just losing money. If you do that every year, it's going to get harder and harder for him.
I know,
as well.
It's robbing kids. It's not a good look, but it is what it is.
Mate, how do you something we haven't spoke too much on is how you fit all this training in around the day life, around the day job. Because you're a lawyer by a trade, right? And are you still practicing still?
Yeah, still practicing. It's got, for a long time, it was near impossible. For 8 years of kind of practice, and the majority of that I was a corporate M&A, like private equity lawyer. These are just acronyms, but I was just basically helping clients buy and sell or invest in companies, and it's quite an intense area of law, quite fast paced, and I wasn't doing a great job of balancing it to the extent that, I think I mentioned 18 months ago, I had a heart related problem, basically collapsed at national 6 stage. And it was all because I just worked myself to the, like, almost to oblivion, really high cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and then stupidly combined it with 6 days, which obviously is a tough course. And so at that point, I was like, got to make a change. So I actually left that area of law, took a little bit of time, had to rehab because it, kind of left a little bit of a mark. And then I've moved into like a slightly more, it's not easy, but it's easier to balance. It's more predictable than like completing these private equity deals. So I think that's partly why I've maybe kicked on a little bit in recent years, is that, in running, it's more about the recovery than it is about the actual training or recovering from the training. And I just was not getting that. I was getting, weeks of just on average like 2 or 3 hours sleep, and, not fun, but that's part of the game. And, when I mentioned, what I was doing in my 20s, half of it was just spent working incessantly and living that lifestyle, which in a way was fun, and it kind of got the competitive juices flowing. But it had to change when I picked up running, and I had to recover from all of the training. So it is a lot easier now. It's still challenging. Like before we had this call, I've had a morning of just every lawyer I've had just wanting to scrap for whatever reason. Just one of those days. So you have easy days and not so easy days, but generally speaking, I've done it long enough now that I can kind of turn down when I feel like the stress is building, I just turn it down a little bit and make those adjustments in training. Don't go out for a double, really focus on sleep and kind of getting a nice reset in, and then going again. It's taken a little bit of time, but overall now it's fine. And where I'm at now is quite understanding. I like watching the streams and stuff and seeing you kind of tear around the track, and like it's manageable now.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you as well is like, where does running come on the priority list? Because I think that's where like a lot of the guys you may be racing against, like you say, they're kids, and literally running could be the be all and end all. That is the number one thing in their life. Is that the same for you? You clearly got the bug, right? Where does it come on that priority list?
It's high, like really high, and it has to be. And it's almost this thing of like, it snowballed into something I didn't really anticipate. And in order to kind of maintain the level and the shape, you do have to, I wouldn't even call them sacrifices, but I've really perfected like the French exit at weddings and not staying on for the fun bit. Same for the ceremony, having maybe like one or two and then going. And you can question whether that's the right thing to do or not. But what I tend to do is just chunk it up. So like in the months approaching track season and then throughout track season, I wouldn't call it like a monastic experience, but I definitely lock in. And then there's almost like this release when it's over, and when track season's over, and I just kind of let my hair down a little bit and see all the people that I haven't really managed to kind of keep in touch with. But I would say, I'm definitely all in on it. And I think that's probably, maybe I'm just a type A personality, and I don't think I would enjoy it if I didn't throw everything behind it. And I don't feel like I'm disadvantaged either in terms of like racing against guys who maybe have like slightly easier schedules with, university has its challenges. I'm not revising for exams anymore. And my like training partners are doing their GCSEs and A levels. Like that I'd find quite difficult as well. So everyone's got their own challenges, and equally guys my age, they're married and have kids. Like, throw a kid in the mix, that's going to take up a lot of your time. That's going to break your sleep. So in the round, I think it's not so bad. But yeah, definitely running fast is a priority for now, because I don't really know how long I can do it for. Hopefully a long time, but it's not certain, is it?
No, it's not. But you enjoy the sport. I think it's great to hear someone lock in, so early on when they haven't. It's almost easier to lock in when you've had the success, isn't it? When you consistently get the results. Like, I guess going into this next year, it's like probably a bit easier to justify to everyone around you, like, hey, this is me, this is what I do. Did you have any sort of pushback when you're locking in as an 8-minute 3K runner or an 8:05 3K runner? Like, there's 40 or 50 guys in the country who can operate in that realm.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what I said. Like, I wasn't really looking at what other people were doing, and maybe I'm doing a little bit of that now. So for instance, I'm running like the BMC Grand Prix races. Like, it kind of helps to know what other people are doing, because like, say you're doing a 3K and you end up running with someone that you didn't really know, but turns out they're rapid, right? And like, maybe you take it out and you don't know the strength that's in the field. It sometimes helps to know how other guys run and things. but it has generally never been hard to kind of get up for it because it's just fun. Like it's as long as you have that enjoyment level. I know it sounds a little bit twee, but it is the main ingredient. As long as you're having fun, you tend to actually run faster. And this year's been a little bit different in the sense that I've got all of this good training, a nice like winter behind me, a little bit of momentum, much easier work-life balance, that you kind of turn up to these track races and you're not nowhere near as nervous as when you first stepped on the track 2 or 3 years ago. It's quite liberating in a sense. But no, it's never been like when I run British champs, I know for a fact that when I'm in that core room, I'm going to be looking around going like, okay, this is different. Like it's just got a different feel for it. But like from a preparation standpoint and just like who you're looking at, like Josh Kerr's running it. I did not think I'd be doing this. So in that sense, that will add probably a little bit of nerves to the occasion, but nerves are good, aren't they? Like,
yeah.
They make you run fast.
They are. You're right. I just wanted to ask as well, what you've spoken about the bike, you've spoken about how you still sometimes rely on it, you still get on the bike, but could you offer a bit of advice to people, the best way to incorporate cycling into their run program, you know, during the week? Because I suspect there's a lot of people who are like, I'd love to just incorporate a bit of cross training, but what does that look like? Does it literally look like just getting on the bike for a couple of hours? You spoke about doing those hard hill intervals. Is that the best? Does that give you, you know, the best results?
I think it's hard to say because I've always struggled to do both at the same time, in that I feel like cycling is great when you're injured and you obviously maybe can't do any load bearing stuff. There's a very typical way to cross train in this country, or when I see guys cross training, which is maybe just to hit a couple of 1 minute efforts and focus on heart rate and try and get it up and almost simulate like a track session or a 400 session. But I think what a lot of people will find is if they get on the bike, and this could be indoor on Zwift and whatever platform, but particularly outside, if you just go and just hit or just cycle on the field and just hit your kind of high zone 2 and just like tickle zone 3 a little bit, you can do that for a lot longer than what you could do running, right? Because you're not getting that muscular fatigue. And when I got injured for 2 months in October, so I only really started running last December, but when I came back, I noticed that 2 months of doing that and then hitting like big hill sessions, not 100 milers or anything like that, nothing like absolutely mad. But I came back and my heart rate was so low and the easy running felt so easy that I then had to speed up my easy runs to something that I would never think I would ever run easy runs at, you know, like 6:40 or 6:45. And that might be, you know, objectively too fast, but that is literally where my zone 2 sits now. And it was as a consequence of just going out on field, enjoying the countryside, and then, as I say, like getting to a hill and just putting the work in. Yeah, looking at heart rate and hitting those zones, hitting your 1 minute efforts, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 minute efforts. And just across the board, you can do a lot of great aerobic and tempo and threshold work on the bike and wake up the next day and be able to go again. You just can't do that running. But I think everyone's different. And I've been speaking to people recently about it. Andy Butchot's in Manchester, he was talking about his period on the bike and what it did for him. And we were talking about whether it does translate well or not. I don't know if it does translate well when you're doing both at the same time, like simultaneously. Yeah. I don't know if it helps just to really just focus on your running and the consistency there. But what I do know is if you approach it in the way that I've just described, when you are injured and you can't run, you're very likely to come back fitter, arguably fitter, or have a different quality of fitness to what you had before you got injured, because you do get a certain type of fitness from running. It will take a little bit of time to get the top end back, of course, but you can set like a really beautiful base just by getting on the bike and just working the border of zone 2 and zone 3. In my experience, it could be different for other people, but it's definitely worked for me.
Yeah. Well, look, just before we get into some quick fire questions at the end, one thing I wanted to ask is as well, like, look, you clearly want to run fast. It's all about improving those times, but have you got kind of a bit of an eye on some vests, like maybe like a Commonwealth Games, European Champs, something like that, an indoor perhaps? Is that something that's on your radar?
Be ambitious, wouldn't it? But yeah, it's what I mean about these like V35 records. Hopefully the vests would be incidental to continuing running fast, but the competition in this country is mad. I like the 15, and I've only done 2 of them this year. I'd like to do more, and I'll be doing 2 of them. But one of the reasons why I'm not doing the 15 is that it's not that I don't think I'd get through the final. I backed myself, but I feel like you can see that quality every time you have, like, I don't know, a BMC A race. There's so many guys there. So, and it's just, I think it's going to be chaos because you've got so many guys running like between 3:36 and 3:40 domestically, that I just think it's going to be a complete bloodbath. It'll be actually more enjoyable to watch than it will be to take part in. And the 5K might be a little bit more interesting in terms of the narrative of the race and you know, the possibilities. But like, yeah, getting a vest for on the track, I think is quite challenging when you consider who we've got in the middle distance space. Like, I've raced like George Mills at 3K indoors, and it was him and Westy were almost 15 odd seconds ahead. Like, they were half a track ahead of me. And then likewise, like for the Commonwealth game, you've got so many names, and it's actually a great thing because it brings on everyone. It ups the level. But yeah, I don't know what my best chance of getting a vest is. Like, I'll just try and get amongst it and see what happens. It's probably that short course mile they do at Loughborough, Liverpool, which I've never raced before. But maybe I take to it, maybe I don't. But yeah, it'd be nice too. It'd be like a nice little addition to the Palmares, but no real way of knowing whether that's possible or not yet.
It's going to be exciting watching you compete over the next few years for sure. And that 5K British Champs is going to be one to watch. Look, you were new to the sport. I guess quick fire question. If you could change one thing about running, what would it be? Was there anything when you stepped into the sport you were like, what? Why do they do things this way?
I think it's what you mentioned earlier. I wish I had more exposure to like short road races. I think that would be a really good addition to the calendar, because you think when you first enter the sport that the most accessible thing is a 5K or park run, and they're great. But I think you could unearth a load of talent and dredge up a load of interest in the shorter middle distance space, and hopefully get someone maybe in their mid-20s who's got, you know, more time to play with, who's maybe have a similar experience to me, and you don't know what they could do. And it could be a much better story. They could go all the way. They could make the Olympics. You could do something mad. Yeah, I think there's certain clubs, like my old club Highgate, are really putting in the effort with like their events, like the night of, and they did a 5K or 5,000 recently. But I think it might actually fall not just on the brands, but also on the clubs to like put together a short course race that's, you know, easy to enter, and just everyone just send it. Yeah, I think there's some that are trying that, like at the kind of podium festival they did that recently, didn't they? But maybe just a bit more of that would be good.
Please imagine a 6-stage, but it was a mile. So, you know, six athletes running over a mile. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Absolute carnage. Do you have a favorite athlete on the circuit, or like anyone that kind of, I guess if you weren't really in athletics, you might not have, like, I don't know how much you knew about the sport, right?
I'm definitely a fan. Like, it doesn't just extend. I'm all in on it. Yeah, domestically, there's some guys I see on the circuit that I'm like, I like the range, and I like the fact that they mix it across. And this year I've raced a guy, you probably know, Jacob Khan. I raced him. I'm actually quite thankful to him because he dragged me to the sub 4 minute mile. And I kind of owe him a little bit. But beyond that, yeah, just he's kind of one of those guys who mixes it from like 3K, 10K on cross. He turns up for his club. So yeah, I kind of rate that. But then, yeah, I'm from Salford. You may not know the name, but there's a fellow called Joe Stewart who's like quite big on cross, and he's kind of like our guy. He's away in New Zealand at the minute, but I think he's just an example. We would like roll him out for 12 stage or 6 stage, and he wouldn't have even like run on tarmac for a year or so, and he just gets like fastest leg. He just rocks up, like does a bit of stretching and just goes. Like, he's just a pure talent, but also like very like a good, like a sound guy, like very humble for someone who's like placed in the top 5 or 10 of countless nationals. But I've got a lot of respect for like load of the guys. Like before the Watford 3K, you could kind of tell when everyone was doing their drills that everyone was kind of just up for it. And it's all these names that I've seen over the years, like feature in A races, not that I may not have like raced them. Like you got like Lyson Roy Leonard, you got like a national cross winner, and Richard Slade was in there. And it's just like everyone's coming from different places and different backgrounds, different disciplines and focuses, and we're all just going to run as fast as we can for 7.5 laps. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, lots of guys I kind of look at and respect.
I love that. His inspiration is those on the circuit. here in the UK.
I mean, I could
think
name
that's
drop a load of pros,
that's
but
the-
like I can't identify.
No, I
can
think that's.
Oh, it's
I think
better,
that's.
yeah.
Yeah,
more
it is.
interesting, I think, to
I think
relate
more
to
relatable as
it
well.
is, yeah.
But these guys could make the step up. Like they're younger than me. They could have like a breakthrough season, get recognized by a shoe brand. They can take a punt on them, and they could go. You just don't know. They could go the whole way. But that is my level. Like I'm effectively a club runner who's transitioned to track, but I'll always be a club runner, and I don't think there's any kind of anything wrong with that. Like it's a fun outlet, isn't it, for running? There's obviously like if the Diamond League's on, and I don't know, I saw Jake Whiteman run the other day that mile. You're rooting for him because you see him around and stuff, and you know how much work they put in, you know how dedicated they are. So those are just gimmies. But yeah, as I say, from kind of the domestic level all the way to the pro ranks, there's loads of guys you look at and you're rooting for.
Yeah, you've got an incredible story. Just finally, Dean, do you have a pre-race ritual? You superstitious?
Nah, not like you add bits here and there, don't you? Because I get laughed at because all these juniors at Salford are like so dialed into their drills, and like I'm just there kind of like 2 steps behind them, copying them like out of sync. I think that's probably a symptom of like coming to it quite late, is that when you're young and you get introduced to running and track, like a lot, you get taught your drills and your stretches, and you have quite a lot of time to build that pre-race ritual. But for me, like I've always just kind of shown up and run, and I know the importance of these things, and particularly from an injury kind of risk perspective or mitigating that risk, I'm trying to get a little bit better. But I think it kind of almost helps to be a little bit more fluid going into a race, so that when you're on the start line, you're just relaxed and then just go. So I just try not to get in my head, listen to some music, and then just go. But yeah, no real proper ritual to speak of.
Cool. Well, look, that wraps up nicely. Thanks so much, Harry, for chatting to us, and obviously all the
Nice
best
one,
for
guys.
champs next weekend.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.